wanted to get some quotes out there by these people out there who know a lot about astronomy, about the universe, studied it their whole life. You know, I read where up to 90% of astronomers believe there has to be a intelligent designer. There's a quote here from Einstein. I just want to read a couple quotes in this video. Einstein, he was involved with the Hubble telescope at Mount Wilson. Famous photos of him doing that. Einstein acknowledged in his writing that the universe definitely had a beginning. Professor Einstein later wrote that he wanted, quote unquote, to know how God created the world. I am not interested in this or that phenomenon in the spectrum of this or that element. I want to know its starts. The rest are details, end quote. Isaac Newton, in his observations on Daniel in the Revelation of St. John, again, I'm reading from Creation by Grant Jefferies. This is chapter on astronomy, revealing intelligent, supernatural design of the universe. Isaac Newton, quote unquote, the most beautiful system of the sun, planets, and comets could only proceed from the counsel and dominion of an intelligent and powerful being. This is 400 years ago. Newton stated that the Creator had placed the stars, quote unquote, at immense distances from one another, end quote. He acknowledged that the, quote unquote, diversity of natural things, end quote, could never have been produced by, quote, blind metaphysical necessity, end quote, but only by an intelligent supernatural creator, end quote. Newton wrote that blind faith couldn't possibly account for a wonderful uniformity that was demonstrated by the planetary movements. Gravity may put, quote unquote, gravity may put the planets in motion, but without divine power, it could never put them into such a circulating motion as they have. Anyway, this is a great book. Everyone should read stuff like this. And you got quotes here from like a Stephen Hawking, who never really admitted there was a God. He did admit that it was incomprehensible that the universe that exists today could ever have been formed by random chance. Quote unquote, why did the universe start out with so nearly the critical rate of expansion that separates models of the universe that recollapse from those that go on expanding forever, so that even now, 10,000 million years later, it is expanding at nearly the critical rate. If the rate of expansion 1 second after the Big Bang has been smaller by even 1 part of 100,000 million, the universe would have recollapsed before it ever reached its present state. So they're talking about the rate of expansion is just ahead of the expansion of the universe. I think that's what he's saying, from where the Big Bang took place. See, the Big Bang is right in one sense, but it implies, Big Bang implies chaos, right? But it's the Big Bang with intelligent design that set up all these, incredible traits that allow man to live, and that's called the entropy principle. Harvard Professor Lawrence Henderson acknowledge that scientific evidence confirms that our solar system was endowed with unique characteristics that prepare it to be a habitable environment for living organisms, including human life. Quote unquote, the great difficulty appears to be that there is here no possibility of interaction. In our solar system, at least, the fitness of the environment far precedes the existence of living organisms. In other words, there's no rational, credible, material explanation for the fact that our solar system and the Earth itself are uniquely fitted to accommodate human life, unless God created all of this universe according to his divine purpose. There's some great stuff. NASA astronomer John O'Keefe wrote about the remarkable nature of the universe. This is a short quote. We are, by astronomical standards, a pampered, cosseted, cherished group of creatures. He goes on to say, if the universe had not been made with the most exact precision, we could never have come into existence. It is my view that these circumstances indicate the universe was created for man to live in. Again, the entropy principle. You know, there's a great DVD out there called The Privileged Planet by Guillermo Gonzalez, and that's a great one. Now, Dr. Hugh Ross, he says something here in a quick paragraph. Quote unquote, if time's beginning is concurrent with the beginning of the universe, as the space theorem says, then the cause of the universe must be some entity operating in a time dimension completely independent of and pre-existent to the time dimension of cosmos. This conclusion is powerfully important to our understanding of who God is and who or what God isn't. It tells us that God is not the universe itself, nor is God contained within the universe. This is a powerful refutation to the New Age pantheism that imagines God is the universe. All right, significantly, Sir Fred Hoyle, who wrote that the idea of an unplanned accident, so-called Big Bang explosion, producing order is nonsense. What he is saying is that explosions produce disorder. See, that's what I was just saying, how it's Big Bang is chaos, but however, creation produced the most precise and complex development of a universe and of astonishing intricate designs that our scientists are only now discovering. The odds against our universe, our Earth, and humanity itself occurring as a result of a chance explosion without a supernatural designer are zero. The Big Bang holds that this is a quote from Fred Hoyle. The Big Bang theory holds that the universe began with a single explosion, yet, as can be seen below, an explosion merely throws matter apart, while the Big Bang has mysteriously produced the opposite effect, with matter clumping together in the form of galaxies. Now, this is the chapter on the astronomy and the universe. Now, Paul Davies, he's a professor of theoretical physicists, calculated how fine-tuned the speed of expansion after the initial moment of creation was, and he reached a remarkable conclusion. Careful measurement puts the rate of expansion very close to a critical value at which the universe will just escape its own gravity and expand forever. A little slower and the cosmos would collapse. A little faster and the cosmic material would have long ago completely dispersed. It is interesting to ask precisely how delicate the rate of expansion has been fine-tuned to fall on this narrow dividing line between two catastrophes. And he goes into the explanation of that. And he concludes that the Big Bang was not evidently any old Big Bang, but an explosion of exquisitely arranged magnitude. So Davies acknowledged that the recent discoveries in astronomy strongly supported the conclusion that there must be a supernatural designer who created the universe in a remarkably fine-tuned manner that allows the Earth and humanity to exist. There is, for me, powerful evidence that there is something going on behind it all, Davies said. It seems as though somebody has fine-tuned nature's numbers to make the universe. The impression of design is overwhelming. All right. So let's talk about the 93 million miles distance from the sun. You know, the Earth is 93 million miles orbit around the sun, right? But it's a circular orbit. It's not an elliptical. If it was elliptical, there'd be no life. It'd be too cold, too hot. And the distance of 93 miles is perfect, too. Plus the rotation and the tilt. So 93 miles, it's a nice symmetrical circle. So I just explained what this paragraph said, I guess. So I'll skip that, but that's a great point. I wanted to jump into the entropy chapter real quick. I had one quote here, of course I didn't highlight it. And I don't even know if I'll find it, but anthropic principle. I guess that's the right term. The anthropic principle. So this is phenomenal stuff. All right, so that's all. I'm gonna just. Oh, here we go. This is the quote I want. This is Davies again, Dr. Paul Davies, writing in the New Scientist, The Christian Perspective of a Scientist, 1983 article. The temptation to believe that the universe is the product of some sort of design, a manifestation of subtle aesthetic and mathematical judgment, is overwhelming. The belief that there is something behind it all is one that I personally share with, I suspect, a majority of physicists. Good, I'm glad I found that. However, the accumulative evidence supporting the intelligent design... Oh, here's another Stephen Hawking's quote. Let me read that first. Significantly, the most respected physicist in the world, Stephen Hawking, obviously he's departed, summarized the implications of his remarkable discoveries about the universe's first moments. The odds against a universe like ours emerging out of something like the Big Bang are enormous. I think clearly there are religious implications whenever you start to discuss the origins of the universe. There must be religious overtones, but I think most scientists prefer to shy away from the religious side of it. However, the Big Bang theory, the theory of the All right, so this is the author speaking again. So that's, end quote. That was Stephen Hawking saying that, it's pretty obvious that there has to be a God. Um, this is a great little paragraph, okay, and a quote by an astronomer. Talks about hydrogen and helium, and the collision of a helium nucleus with another helium nucleus produces an extremely short-lived and very unstable new element called beryllium. Another helium nucleus then collided with the beryllium nucleus, producing a new element called carbon. So it's like a chain reaction or just a collision. All of this took place in the first second of God's creation. This is amazing. They can, ponder this. The Harvard University astronomer Robert Kirshner wrote, a delicate match between the energies of helium, the unstable beryllium, and the resulting carbon allows the last to be created. Without this process, we would not be here. None of us would be here. I'm going to just read a little bit more about carbon in another quote from astrophysicist Sir Fred Hoyle. The incredible unlikely creation of carbon also resulted in the formation of all of the other heavy elements in the universe that are essential for life to exist. Wow. Including nitrogen and oxygen. Wow. The astrophysicist Fred, I read this before, but it doesn't sink in. The astrophysicist Sir Fred Hoyle admitted that when he considered how totally unlikely it was that the element carbon could have been formed by accident, his atheism was shook to the core. He wrote, a common sense interpretation of the facts suggests that a super intellect has monkeyed with physics, as well as with chemistry and biology, and that there are no blind forces worth speaking about in nature. The numbers one calculates from the facts seem to be so overwhelming as to put this conclusion almost beyond question. So let me just try to read one more to you. It's from Dr. Chandra Wickramasinghe. If he lived in America, they just, in the 19th century, they'd short it to, I don't know, Becker or something. However, the accumulated evidence supporting the intelligent design of the universe and the anthropic principle is convincing many leading scientists to abandon atheistic, materialistic worldview and accept that our universe is the purposeful creation of God. Dr. Chandra Wickramasinghe, one of the most eminent scientists in Britain, has stated that the anthropic principle strongly supports the theory of God's special creation as opposed to evolution. When he was asked if his scientific research proved that Darwin's theory of evolution was fatally flawed, he agreed. When asked how he would evaluate the scientific arguments of the creationists who suggest that only God could have created the universe and life itself, Professor Wickramasinghe responded, you mean the arguments that are justifications of their position? I think they have a very good case by and large. So Professor Jastrow was that guy who said, astronomers and physicists are climbing this mountain, searching for knowledge, and they get to the top of the mountain, and they see a bunch of theologians there who have discovered it already. But Jastrow was an interesting guy. He has some great quotes out there. He's passed away now, but he's talking about the universe, design of the universe. Says the smallest change in any of the circumstances of the natural world, such as the relative strengths of the forces of nature or the properties of the elementary particles, would have led to a universe in which there would be no life and no man. So just the smallest change. For example, if nuclear forces were decreased by a few percent, the particles of the universe would not have come together in nuclear reactions to make the ingredients such as carbon atoms of which life must be constructed. And Jastrow also noted that the same argument can be made about the strength of the electromagnetic force and the strength of the gravitational force. So these are like the three main things out there. In other words, if the universe was altered in the slightest way, no animal or human life could ever have been formed on the planet. Now, this is science, right? We're told to, is science proving the Bible here? All right, and O'Keefe again, the NASA astronomer and scientist, has acknowledged the utter impossibility that the universe would have ever developed in a manner that would have allowed humanity to exist by random chance. Dr. O'Keefe wrote, we are, by astronomical standards, pampered. Oh, I read this. I'm sorry about that. All right. So I think on that note, looks like I'm running out of quotes. Here's one by Arno Penzias, who won the Nobel Prize for Physics, acknowledged that astronomy reveals that our universe was created out of nothing and is apparently designed by some supernatural being to allow humanity to exist and prosper. Dr. Penzias, Penzias, wrote, astronomy leads us to a unique event, a universe which was created out of nothing, one with a very delicate balance needed to provide exactly conditions required to permit life, and one which has an underlying plan. And this is a good one. Professor Werner von Braun was the leading post-World War II German rocket scientist who developed the American NASA program that ultimately developed the Saturn V moon rocket. Professor Braun wrote, I find it as difficult to understand a scientist who does not acknowledge the presence of a superior rationality behind the existence of the universe as it is to comprehend a theologian who would deny the advances of science. One more for you, and I think I've got one Hawking quote, and that'll be it. The astronomer, Professor Alan Sandage, acknowledged that the powerful evidence of design that scientists discovered in our universe, quote unquote, I find it quite improbable that such order came out of chaos. There has to be some organizing principle. God to me is a mystery, but is the explanation for the miracle of existence. Why there is something instead of nothing. The most famous astronomer and theoretical physicist in our generation is Professor Stephen Hawking. He has introduced millions of readers to the wonders of the universe through his tremendous book, A Brief History of Time, but there's no but. Dr. Hawking carefully examined the compelling evidence that our universe appears to have been designed. While refusing to acknowledge God, Professor Hawking stated, the laws of science, as we know them at present, contain many fundamental numbers, like the size of the electrical charge of the electron and the ratio of the masses of the proton and the electron. The remarkable fact is that the values of these numbers seem to have been very finely adjusted to make possible the development of life. So the fine-tuning. The ultimate conclusion of these sciences is that our universe, solar system, and especially our Earth was purposely constructed by a very powerful intelligence within very narrow scientific parameters to allow human life to flourish. All right, so that's my foray into these quotes. You got to get them, got to get familiar with them. Robin tricked, Robin fooled, Robin lied to. We need truth because that'll make us investigate God more which is what we should be doing. That's the meaning of life, investigating God more, and then seeing that he's real. You can see it through his creation. The Bible says we're without an excuse. The creation leaves us with no excuse. And this is what I'm talking about. Any educational system that doesn't get touch onto these things is not education, unfortunately. And it's not inspired by God. It's a waste of time. And it'll lead to a life of emptiness and hard hearts and hatred. Okay, that's what I got for you today. Have a nice one.